It recognizes our belief in God, our country, not just individuals, our country, our founding fathers codified this in the documents that founded this country. Our reliance, our belief in God, and our reliance upon God. Of that, there's just no debate on that. You may like it, may not like it. Declaration of Independence, we find these truths to be self-evident, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, of which are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. It goes on in the Constitution to say we are putting together this Constitution in a preamble to secure the blessings, not only for ourselves, for posterity. And that Constitution followed with a Bill of Rights that enumerated those godly rights given to man, including the very first one, which was the right to believe in God and to express that belief anytime, anywhere, including the public square.
33 million. It's proven to the money investors that people want something to feed their souls, not just their worst desires.
Absolutely.
And
yes, indeed.
This kind of sums up my entire dialogue career on the heat of the night. You ready for this? Okay, this is it. My 7 years on the heat of the night. My dialogue all summarized into this. Get right on it, Chief.
Captain Skinner, but Bubba's my name. I like my iced tea sweet and my women the same. I'm your brown-haired badge here in little old Sparta, but nobody's bigger or tougher or smarter. If you're looking to fight, best not be with me. Gonna be held tight, well now we'll just see. You never know in the heat of the night on TNT. Heat of the night on TNT. Now I don't put on any airs, but then I ain't no slob. Just a redneck boy with a blue-collar job. The ladies I date, they gonna have 'em some fun, 'cause I'm a big hunk of crime fighting son of a gun. So if you're looking to fight, come on up in the ring. You wanna be held tight, just about anything can happen in the heat of the night on TNT. Hubba, 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 hubba. Heat of the night on TNT. Yeah.
It recognizes our belief in God, our country, not just individuals, our country, our founding fathers codified this in the documents that founded this country. Our reliance, our belief in God, and our reliance upon God. Of that, there's just no debate on.
From NFL quarterback to Hollywood to the mayor's office, and now behind the mic at KXEX, this is the Alan Autry Show. No retreat.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
What the hell's going on out here? Everybody grabbing out there. Nobody. That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KFTX.
And welcome to Taco Tuesday, otherwise known as the Tuesday installment of the Alan Autry Show. So honored, humbled, and as they say in the South, tickled to death to have you here. And alongside of me, most Tuesdays, I get the honor of having one Robert Leoni.
Hey, Hoss.
Bullet Bob. How you doing,
Well,
buddy?
still Taco Tuesday, right?
Oh, it's always Taco.
I mean, even though they trademarked that, even though Taco Bell trademarked that, I guess.
I just go by the mantra that it's Taco Tuesday somewhere every day.
Why can't we say
So we can celebrate it 24/7, 7 days a week. It is a time to have a taco in honor of Taco Tuesday.
that I don't eat enough tacos. If you did it 24/7,
Nothing better.
I'd be in real trouble.
Nothing. Hey, I tried that in college.
What?
It was not a good dorm room.
Well, my meal was in college.
The ramen.
Mr. Good Bars and Beer.
Oh yes,
That got me through a few days.
yes.
Not many, but a few.
Yes, that'll kill any germ you have in there. COVID would have went in your body back then. Get me out of here, man.
Then, of course, there's over to the graduate
I
for
don't want
grad burger and fries. So I had a real healthy diet.
Yeah.
That hasn't changed a lot over the years.
Do you?
Unfortunately.
Do you remember when McDonald's first came out?
No.
You can't think back. We were cognizant.
Well, McDonald's
back then.
came out in the mid-'50s, but I didn't go to a McDonald's until
but it was
early
just,
'60s.
It was just like one store or something. I'm talking about when it went national there. Remember, it was like 10 cents or 15 cents for a burger.
Oh, yeah.
And you could
10
get,
cents.
and how quickly you got them. And
They'd been there for a couple of days.
Well, yeah.
Under the heat lamp.
Yeah, we were in college. We didn't care. But I remember thinking that going, this is just unbelievable. And then the whole concept of a drive-through. Put it there, and then talking to the anyway, it's just I find myself getting a little nostalgic as years go by. Pearl, hey, where's Guillermo's not with us today. Guillermo's in Michigan, which I had no idea.
What?
I don't know. I just talked to him the other day. He's on the show. He seemed going by. Hey, I see you tomorrow. Then I texted him some subject ideas, and he goes, "Hey, I'm in Michigan." You never know where he's going to go, be it from day to day. It's like, is Guillermo going to be joining us? No, he's in the Sudan. he jumped on a plane today, but he can zoom in. He can zoom in. So he zooms in with his turban on his head there, Like he says, when you're in Sudan, you do as the Sudanese do. Is he going to zoom in today, Jeremy? He said he was going to. Iffy? He's not going to zoom in. He's home. No, that's where his lovely bride is from, Michigan.
Oh, is she?
No, I'm not sure about that.
I don't think you know what you're talking about.
Well, he went to Michigan State, and they go there a lot. I believe she has been. I should know that.
Yeah.
But anyway, he can go whenever he wants to because he works hard, real hard, and we're just so blessed to be a part of his KXEX
His world
team. Yeah. Guillermo's world.
Well, whatever he's doing, I'm hoping he's having fun.
Yeah, about as much fun as Blinken's having over in China. When you get when you meet with
going
somebody,
to Sudan next.
When you meet somebody, you go face to face with somebody, and they beat.
Oh my word!
They beat slap you left and right, make you and say, "Who's your daddy?" And you say, "Xi Jinping's my daddy." When you do that once, you take a pummeling like Blinken and his entourage did at the beginning of the Biden administration when they met someplace. I think it was Alaska. You remember that? When the Chinese delegation just ran them down just pummeled them verbally, just lectured them. And Blinken was trying to say human rights, and Xi Jinping's retort to that. Look what you've done to the black Americans, and the day of American domination is over. Bum, bum, bum. It may all be true, but it was just, if it would have been a pro fight, they would have called it right then. So then you ask for a rematch.
Called it with guts.
Yeah. You beat the crap out of me on a neutral field. Okay. Now I want to go to your place.
Yeah. See how bad it can
And then
be
I'm going to show the world that first beating you gave me was a fluke. I'm going to show all of the countries that don't have respect for us anymore because we kowtowed and bowed and took the beating, didn't even attempt to fight back. I saw almost that whole deal there, several hours. Not all of it's on the internet. But
I mean, they're sitting there like little puppy dogs. Blinken and his entourage and the Chinese Communist Chinese delegation, they came ready like the Denver Nuggets, man. they were going to win Game 5. There was not going to be a Game 6. So he goes there. So you're thinking, okay, you got the war in Ukraine going on. Let me ask you this, Rob.
Oh, by the way, Joe Biden said Blinken did a heck of a job this time in China. Did a heck of a job.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
Well, it means
it's also the same guy that says he's going to build a railroad
to India
across the ocean.
Well, he's when he said
Sorry, I got you
when he
off track.
said no, when he said God save the Queen, he said he meant to say God save she. And I think of what he did on that. I think he's mistaken. I think he thinks that King Charles now transitioned, and he's just actually being nice to her.
Queen Charlotte.
God save the Queen. Now, I think he's first one to acknowledge that Charles have gone all the way, full new gender assignment, and be referred to as the Queen instead of the King.
Sorry,
now.
folks, I got the giggles today.
That's what Biden would say. Anyway,
I'm sorry, I got you off track.
Seriously now.
And that's easy to do.
Seriously now. Let's talk about his trips to China. The second trip. Don't you feel confident you got probably the most he's taken more money unscrupulously, let's put it that way, from foreign governments than his private life. And some would say in his public life.
You talking about Blinken?
I'm talking about Blinken.
Yeah.
And probably it looks like it could be Biden as well, but But you send him over there, he goes over there. Now, if you've called Russia every name in the book and Putin every name, well earned, for invading their neighbor, Ukraine, and just viciously, unconscionably bombing hospitals and killing children, and old people, and schools, and that sort of thing. And China comes out right after the war and reaffirms it 6 months into the war that they're on Russia's side. Lip service says, I wish they wouldn't be bombing. We're not going to provide them any lethal weaponry. But no, we are tied together. Our futures are tied together. We are on Russia's side. Putin we got a bromance going. This is Xi Jinping. I mean, it's obvious to America and the world that they're an ally, that they approve of what's going on. If they disapproved of it, China is the one country that could make Russia change course. Why? Because China's buying all their oil. They're keeping the Putin regime and the war folks in power there in Russia. So you know that they are on Russia's side. And you compound the fact that pretty much China has bullied America the last 6 months to a year. Started with, that we know, the spy balloon, shot down the spy balloon. And instead of saying, don't do that again, Xi Jinping gets offended. And Biden comes out going, well, I don't think he really knew. I think he was more embarrassed that he didn't really know that it was a spy balloon. Okay, you have that. And then you have this buzzing of the American jet by a Chinese communist jet coming in and buzzing that plane in aggressive action. You had a aircraft carrier pull in front of our aircraft carrier. Blinken says there will be consequences if this happens again, and it happens again, similar incident. It's like, okay, so you have all of this stuff going. Why in the world would you go there to China, Bobby?
Well,
seems like you would say, we need to talk, and you need to come here. You get to come on our turf. You're the one doing the offending. And they're basically saying, you're yesterday's news, America. We're not afraid of you anymore, and we're going to do whatever the heck we want. Well, I think was it a bad move for him to go over there?
Well, everything that I've read says, well, they just needed to talk, and they needed to get them some things squared away, and needed to know what their thoughts were on different things. And Blinken was going to reaffirm our commitment to Ukraine and all of this kind of stuff. I really don't know what he accomplished. First of all, I can't stand Anthony Blinken. I think he's a crook and a scoundrel. I hope that doesn't get us thrown off the air. But
beat around the bush. Tell us what you really feel.
This guy in concert with Lloyd Austin. I mean, these guys, a couple of guys that have really made a lot of money.
A lot of money on war.
On war. So I don't trust a stinking thing that this guy says. And I'm so stinking pessimistic anymore, Haas, about any of our diplomats going to these foreign countries. Who's to say there wasn't some kind of inside deal made between these two guys when the cameras were off and everybody was out of the room? I don't know. You know, my mind's going all kinds of different ways with this deal, but I just don't know what the point was for him going over there. And I like your idea. Hey, if we need to talk, you come see us.
Well, if you really cared about the country, knowing that you do have to draw a line in the sand like Kennedy did with the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, by the way, Communist China's opened up a spy base in Cuba. So we have our version of Taiwan going on right now. You're going to come and occupy Cuba right off of our shore, even though Cuba is a sovereign country, it's a communist country. Okay, right off our shore. So we pretty much said, if anybody comes and tries to use Cuba to their advantage, we're going to fight. We're going to take you on, which is basically what China's saying with Taiwan. So there's some kind of strange similarities and analogies going on between the Taiwan situation and the Cuba situation. But I happen to believe at this point in time, and I know I'm not alone out there, folks. I know many of you feel the same way about what I'm about to say. When a presidential election is looming around the corner, every single move, every single action, every single word that's uttered from the president's spokespersons, president's allies is geared toward helping that reelection effort. So what you get during this season is a lot of folks, as you say, you're trying to find, what's the truth and what's not. What does that individual truly believe? Is it really in their heart to seek peace in Ukraine, or do they just see the poll numbers that there's plummeting support for the war in Ukraine of American public, both Republican and Democrat? This whole thing of a check in perpetuity for as long as it's take is not getting any traction with the American people. They want to know what's going on there, and their patience is not going to be endless. They read these polls. So my feeling is he went on this trip to try to work with China on how do you call off the Russian dogs here? How can you lean on them to talk peace? We can't call for it because we've said so many things now about open checks as long as it takes. We've demonized Putin to the point. It has to be you all. Please, can you do something in that regard in terms of some kind of ceasefire? And I will, as surely as I'm sitting here right now, push comes to shove, it wouldn't even have to go to shove. I mean, it could just be a slightly firm shove. This administration is going to bow to the notion that Crimea is forever Russian. They're not going to go to the nuclear phase or even the next phase in defense of Crimea. I think right now this administration said, look, if you can go back to the previous borders, Crimea, give the Russians Donbass, Luhansk, that region that's closer to Russia, that's right on Russia's border, actually. I know that it's not make the Ukrainians happy. It doesn't make Zelensky happy. But, Bobby, that's the only way military. You're not going to win this, which begs the question, how's the counteroffensive going? How's it going? This so-called Ukrainian counteroffensive that everybody's been waiting for. Well, it was launched a couple of weeks ago. And you're hearing pretty much not quite crickets, but very little from the reporting that would indicate that there's any kind of rout going on with the Ukraine over the Russians. Quite the opposite. You're hearing that the Russian air power is so superior. Ukraine doesn't even have an air force. They don't even really have a navy. We said this on the show way back when this started. You are fighting a fool's war. You're not going to win unless you have
troops, more bodies, and more equipment from Western Europe and the United States. And they are simply not willing at this point, I doubt if they ever will, to send troops. So I think it was a political trip. And then, as sure again as I'm sitting here, there's no reason for Blinken, after his meeting with Xi Jinping, to reiterate that the United States does not consider Taiwan an independent nation. You didn't have to say that unless you were told, look, you want good relations? You want the beginning of relations? You want even the beginning of the talks? By the way, it's a big flat note to military. You know they turned that down? So you could be on the verge of nuclear war. There is nobody to talk to militarily. The General Milley and Lloyd Austin don't have a counterpart that they can call going, hey, look, we're hearing signs that you're getting ready to launch, and we're going to launch first because we get reliable information because there's a balloon that flew over. We intercepted a communique, and if you don't talk to us, we got to clear the air on this thing. China says no to that kind of communication. That is unprecedented. That is extremely dangerous. So they said no to that. But I think what they did say was, look, if you want that kind of talk, if you want to have that communication, you march your little rich, corrupt butt out in front of the cameras and say that we don't recognize, the United States of America do not recognize Taiwan as an independent country. And if action were taken on Taiwan, we will do nothing. Your reaction?
Well, I think the Taiwanese would be a little disappointed to hear that because they think they're an independent country. Well, you covered a lot of territory there, Hoss. First of all, Crimea.
That was quite a bloviation.
Yeah, it was. Crimea is going to stay with Russia. That's not going to change. They got that in 2014. They're not giving it back. Your second point with regard to Donbass, right now there's heavy fighting. How is this counteroffensive going? Well, it was launched, like you said, a week and a half or so ago. It's slow slogging. It's slow going. The Russians are defending, so they're dug in. The Ukrainians are making small inroads. Haven't done a whole in the reports that I'm reading, folks. Again, what's the true story? I usually have to go to European sources to try and put two and two together to see what the real story is over there. But it's the Russians are dug in. They're defending the territory, obviously, that they've already got in that region.
It's always easier to defend than
Absolutely. There was a question that I think it may have been Zelensky, who said, well, they haven't even seen all of our troops yet. We're only using a quarter of our troops or something to that effect. So the question is that true? Number two, how do the Russians react to all of this? If this is only a quarter of their troops, they're looking for some. The Ukrainians are looking for some weaknesses within this line that the Russians have established. This area that they've controlled, that they won, and now are trying to contain and control and retain. And one quote I saw, and I don't know if I wrote it down here, but a Ukrainian official said that it's going to be a long and slow drag, something to that effect, meaning that regardless of how strong this counteroffensive is, it's still going to take a long time. It's still going to take a lot of material. A lot of people are going to die. We had talked early on. I mean, right after this thing happened, maybe a month or two last year, we'd talked about what's one surefire way to get the people of the country on their knees, destroy the infrastructure, destroy the electricity grid, destroy the clean water grid, which is what happened when they bombed that dam, and now that water's all contaminated. So you've already destroyed a lot of the country. So you take all of that together. I don't know where this thing's going to end. I think, well, We can't keep supporting this thing for the rest of our lives.
It's an unwinnable war under these circumstances. We said it from the beginning. I took a lot of heat from it. It's just logic. I fell out of the truck, but I didn't land on my head. It's just a little common sense would let you know this was a war that was completely unwinnable, that it was a war to make people rich. It was a war to people knee-jerk reaction rather than thinking things out. Sure, we would all love to have Zelensky have a tremendous victory in Ukraine, although it is a corrupt country itself. It's the least lesser of the evils, clearly. I'm 100% on that. But it's the world we wish that we lived in, and there's a world that we live in. And you can't be that far outmanned. You can't fight the war right next to the country, right next to Russia. They don't have to ship troops thousands of miles to go fight like we did in World War II. You're going up against a country that does not have an air force. It has, I think, Russia has 200 million people, 230 million people. Ukraine now is down to like 35 million, 40 million people. How many of those folks are fighting, have fighting capabilities? When this war started in Ukraine, a lot of people don't know this, if you were under 65, you could not leave the country. You had to stay there and fight. And okay, I get it. We had a draft. We've done the same thing, forced people into the military. So I'm not making a moral judgment on that. It just indicates clearly that you don't have the manpower and woman power. You don't have the equipment to win this war unless, and it doesn't matter, you can bring in air defenses, you can bring in Abrams tanks, you can bring in all that requires you to have training, get ready to go, to be able to drive those things. And then you don't have an air force. Russia just kept the air force back all of this time. They played Russians notoriously are great chess players. They started out playing chess, and we were playing checkers. We meaning the United States and Western Europe and Ukraine. We were so, and as each move was made, you could see this effort, Ukraine being drawn in to what will ultimately be destruction. You can't. You're going to give Russia complete, total upper hand to pretty much dictate the terms with China as their ally. And don't ever forget India playing impartial there, and Turkey. I mean, India is a huge market that these American corporations want to get into. They just surpassed China, having most people in the world. So you got like Nike, you got Microsoft, you got all of these people salivating of corporations and getting to that Indian market, selling those goods. So you've got the same situation in China. So the support from the big guns, the powers that be that really have bought this government, are not going to play hardball with China and India because they are Russian allies. And so they're not going to play hardball when it comes down to it with China, with Russia. Then the ultimate difference maker is you have a non-nuclear power fighting a nuclear power. So you get down to the bitter end, say the Ukraine is winning, routing. That nuke is going to come out because Putin and the Russian majority consider this stopping of the Ukraine is the stopping of NATO, which they believe is out to take over Russia and make Russia a Western colony. If there was a period of time where Russia was invaded every 33 years, those stories were passed now. So all this support that Putin has by the Russian people, if you listen to the media, they say, well, that's manufactured. That's fake news. Well, I'm sorry, it's not. We can't relate to it because we haven't been invaded every 33 years in our existence. We can't possibly relate to that. We got Mexico down south, Canada up north. Yeah, we always relate to them, but we don't fear an invasion from them at this point in time. So it's never victory, so-called victory, where you run Russia out of Crimea, out of Donbass, Robert said, back to the original borders, was never going to happen. And you look at all the carnage. How many more people have to die? If you really care about the Ukrainian people and the Russian people, My goodness.
So, Haas, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, please.
Do you think it's going to take Xi Jinping to say, hey, Vlad, why don't you see if why don't you make peace with Ukraine? Is it going to take China to intervene in a diplomatic sense to get this thing to end, or how does this thing
I
end?
think it ends with China persuading Zelensky.
Oh, okay.
I don't think he's going to go through. I think they'll make the appearance that it's Putin compromising.
Oh, I got you. Oh, interesting.
But it has to be Zelensky and the Ukrainian hierarchy, including the oligarchs. Yes, they have oligarchs in Ukraine, and they're no more pure than any oligarchy you'd find around the world. But that's what has to happen, and those talks are going on. You heard Zelensky talk about Xi Jinping. It's not in derogatory terms. And it's I think we're quickly getting to the point where, some fighters just remember Arturo Gatti. You remember him? He was Marvin Hagler.
Yeah.
You remember Marvin Hagler?
Mm-hmm.
There's some fighters that they get in and they just won't quit. They could be taking the beating of their life. Their health could be a concern. Even dying in the ring could be a possibility. And they know it. And deep inside, they know they can't quit. The pride won't let them. But they're hoping their corner will throw in the towel. They're hoping that somebody will care enough about them to wave the fight off and stop the fight so they can keep their honor and they don't get permanently damaged for life. That's what we're seeing in the Ukraine right now. I feel even at this point, because here's the telling thing. You mentioned you don't know who's winning. I have a little different take reading these tea leaves. I think for sure Russia is dominating this counteroffensive. They have countered the counteroffensive. Why? When the media, which is 99% on the Ukrainian side, if Ukraine takes a couple of inches of Russian territory in a standoff, the headlines are Ukraine with massive win in Bakhmut. Ukraine with a possible knockout in Donbass. Ukraine, it's this, oh man, the Ukrainian soldiers, you see them all buffed out, ready to go. They do the videos with the Russian guy in the trench begging to surrender, and how horrible the Russians military was to them, and probably was. They shoot cowards in the head, as do the Ukraine. Remember the Ukraine guy that killed the guy with the hammer that wouldn't fight? I mean, it's a war, Eastern European style, which is brutal, brutal World War I stuff. Now, why I know that the Russians are facing this counteroffensive and pushing back and winning at this point is you're seeing even the outlets who support the Ukraine starting to say they're making progress. Ukraine is making progress, but the Russian army is well dug in.
Exactly.
The Russians are fighting back,
especially in the south.
Are fighting back. Just to say that, translate, Russia's routing them. Russia's killing them at a 10-to-1 ratio. When you find the true numbers, which are out there, again, it depends on what you believe, but this makes more sense to me, are killing Ukrainians 10-to-1 to the Russians. The military has dug in. They've got their first string in. They've killed all the convicts off. The convicts were the first wave in there that they didn't know how to fight. Hey, you want 100 years to life in prison, or you can go out there and fight, and hey, you don't get killed, you're free.
Yeah.
I'd take that deal.
Yeah.
They mowed them down. But now you got the first team in there. You got the equivalent of the special ops of Russia in there fighting this war. And now you have this they got weapons they haven't even used yet, waiting for just this time when the Ukrainian military has been decimated. They're starting to shoot missiles over into Kiev and other big cities to make the Ukrainians have to make a decision. Do we keep this counteroffensive? Or we got to go back and help in Kiev? Our major cities are getting hammered. What do we do here? So the media is giving some kudos to Russia for facing this counteroffensive. So any compliment or any type of positive thing in the Russians' favor shows you how big Russia is winning. It's to me, it's a clear, this counteroffensive. You see it on Zelensky's face. You know, as an actor, you learn to read faces. Everything's communicated. Not
Well,
just
and
words.
he was
you can
comedian.
Well, you could say, like he says, "Hey, we're winning. All we need is more supplies. We're winning this war. Our troops are brave, and we'll continue to drive the Russians out." You can say that with your lips and your voice, and your body can be saying, "We're beaten down, and we don't have a chance of winning this sucker."
Well,
and that's what I saw with his body language on his last press
and I
conference.
think from a strategic, and folks, I don't pretend to be a military strategist, specialist or anything. Just from what I'm reading, down in the south, the Ukrainian troops are going against an entrenched Russian army that's prepared and has the munitions. And you mentioned tanks that the Ukraine has. There have been a lot of those that have been destroyed by, guess what? The Russian Air Force.
24 last count.
Yeah. So it's not going away. If you don't have air superiority, you got nothing. If you don't have the air, a critical
And
component.
there's no place to hide. It's not like you're in Afghanistan. You can hide in a cave. All of that's flat land.
Yeah.
You're just out there in the open, man. I mean, it's, the
I
jets
just-
come out of the sky. There's the tank.
And
Unless
I
it's a
just think-
dummy tank, you're done.
You know, Haas,
I mean, it breaks my heart for the
we've
Ukrainian
mentioned
people.
it. Yep, exactly. And that's just where I was going. You read me perfectly. That's just where I was going. It's. I look at these videos again, usually from Western Europe, the French people French correspondents who are embedded with the Ukrainians. And man, I'm telling you, I mentioned this before, and it hasn't changed. Some of these cities look like Dresden in World War II after the bombing. They're shells.
Bakhmut is
the
no
people,
longer Mariupol.
yeah.
Done.
I mean, the poor people. How many more people? I mean, we're not talking certainly military, but civilians. You know what they call what's the phrase? I can't even think of it right now. How many more people lives have to be disrupted before somebody finally steps in, and it may be Ping talking to Zelensky to get that done. And man, I wish he'd hurry up.
Isn't it pathetic? Doesn't say a lot about the United States and the free world in general. I'm going to bring Western Europe into this as well. Who sends a delegation with very little power, but obviously seeing what we're seeing in this conflict and caring about humanity so much, they send a delegation talking about the African states. A small group of African states got together and went to Russia to meet with Putin to seek peace, just come to the table and talk. And I don't know who those individuals are. They don't have collective clout like a China, United States, any country in Western Europe. Certainly not Brazil, some South American countries. You get some really poor countries in Africa, yet they love humanity, love people. They're touched. You see a bunch of, now play the race situation. You're over there in Africa, predominantly black, obviously, and you see a bunch of white people just murdering and slaughtering each other, and it touches your heart so much that you get on a plane. They don't have much money, and you fly a delegation to Russia to say, please stop fighting. This isn't right. Innocent people are dying, and it's affecting us all the way over here in Africa. How to leave it to the little nations like that to call for the ultimate call of peace, just to talk, which should be the United States leading that charge telling China,
there you go.
Telling China, look, you think you can do this BRICS thing? You think you can change the currency from the dollar to the yuan. Okay, you're trying that. It's a complete dismal failure, by the way. They've got a group of those countries over there trying to replace it, and the economy is just falling apart. The South Korean dollar's kicking their butt over there. You say, okay, you're talking about we're your biggest market. You're shipping more Nikes, more antibiotics, more stuff to the United States as a consumer nation. Your economy, not to mention the T-bills, all the investment made, all the lands you've bought here in America. You want to play that game? First of all, we're going to nationalize all of that property you bought, so starting with the one that acreage next to the nuclear sites. Done. We've just nationalized it. You don't own it anymore. Okay? And by the way, we're going to suffer a little bit of a nation, but you know what? The Philippines doesn't do this to us. They can make the antibiotics pretty much as cheap as you can, G, and not use slave labor like the Uyghurs to do it. We can go over there to Vietnam. You know what? Hey, they're their own country. You have a little bit of influence, but you don't control them. They can make LeBron James sneakers just as easy as you can. You want to do that? You want a complete separation? Okay. You got it, baby. Get on that plane, call it the dismal failure it is, and say, China, go your way. America, let's go our way, and let's see what happens. That is, well, Alan, you don't do that. You're calling about economic failure. Do you realize where we're heading if you don't stand up to this communist regime? They don't want to fight. They don't want a hot war. They want to come in, occupy you, brainwash your populace, take you over from the inside, and flood the world with payoffs till they control everything. They don't want to be in. They're one of the most racist societies that there is. They don't have unions they have to deal with. They don't have to get there and negotiate with the union head there in Beijing. You know, that day is coming where you have to stand up and be able to walk that talk and be willing to be voted out of office if you have to make that stand, or you continue down this road that China feels we don't have the courage to turn back from, that we're hopelessly addicted to the drug dealer. That's China. We're just like the drug addict stumbling around in New York, peeing on the sidewalk, crapping our pants, and injecting heroin. That's how they see us as America in terms of being addicted to their economy, their creation of cheap goods flooding the American market because they can perform any other country because they can make the product cheaper. And that is just something we're going to have to do sooner or later. And for me, because, the price of negotiating with them, Robert, is this. Forget that little thing called the Constitution. We're going to negotiate, but you got to put that on the table. And there's a lot of people in this country think we should have a social credit score. A social credit score is 180 degrees from a Constitution, exact opposite of the Constitution. Constitution says I can have my free will as long as I don't break the law. And you don't have a right to any of my information. And by the way, you can't punish me for what I say, do, or where I go, or what party I'm affiliated with. You cannot hang out with me, but you can't punish me. The Chinese credit score is exactly opposite. If you don't say the right thing about the government, if you don't toe the line that the government says to toe, if you don't do what they say to do, you can't even get on an airplane and fly anyplace. You can't have a job. During COVID, they lock you up till you die. That's what's at stake here. And there's some people out there who believe, you know what? That may not be a bad system. How do I know this? We got Justin Trudeau on tape, glowing, talking with admiration and jealousy almost about the system Xi Jinping has in China, being able to be that authoritarian. Why? Because they're anointed. They're so much more brilliant than we are. So by being more brilliant than anybody, like Justin Trudeau thinks he is, that they're doing right by the people, saying, you know what? These people don't know what they're doing. They don't know what's good for them. I'm very, very more intellectually advanced. Someday the populace will be as smart as me. But right now they're not. And until they catch up, they're really depending on me to make the right decisions for them. And therefore, I'm not going to let truckers protest and demonstrate because it's bad for the country. Pearl Hellman here, save me.
Well,
should we go to station? Should we go to sell
well,
something?
you can't. I wanted to
Go
touch.
ahead.
I wanted to touch base on the Blinken thing again because I don't trust this guy as far as I can spit. And if you folks trust him, then that's fine. We all have different opinions and different outlooks. But I'm just wondering, is the fact that he goes over there like a little whimpering puppy dog and is not real forceful, not real demanding, is that because he's beholden to the Chinese government in some way, shape, or form? Is the corruption that deep within our own? I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist here. I'm not saying that, but I just don't trust these guys further than I can throw a baseball, which isn't very far anymore. Is he beholden in some way to the communist China government at this point?
He's obviously taken money through direct payments or investments from China and probably every country you could imagine.
Okay,
that has to do it in terms of military spending. He's probably. I'm just saying.
So for that,
but I don't know if he did that when he was in office or not. But what he clearly is doing, I feel, knowing how these politicians work, he's certainly setting himself up for after office by developing relationships over in China. So when he's out of office, all the shackles are off. He can make as much as he wants to. Game on, be a lobbyist.
Gotcha.
So he's going over there, hey, on the taxpayer dime, developing relationships in China.
Further his
and
own
be on the Chinese, communist Chinese payroll, just like LeBron, just like Kevin Durant.
Gotcha.
That's they're playing the long game.
Okay.
And that's pretty naive to think otherwise. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we just saw up here in the monitor that it looks like Hunter Biden's made a plea deal.
Yes.
For a little tax situation and getting a gun and lying on the gun application. Boy, they could probably going to throw him away for 100 years. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm sure that'll happen.
Yeah. We'll be right back. This is Alan Autry, No Retreat.
Heavy subject today. And I don't have anything yucks in here. It's all serious stuff.
It is. We live in serious times. I got a good one for you, though.
What? A joke?
Yeah.
Oh, I got one, too.
I don't know if it's a joke. It's more reality to it. There's two 80-year-olds talking. Again, 80-year-olds. I say, 6. I can't pee anymore. It just dribbles. It just takes forever. And
we're still on here.
Yeah, I know. We're just talking about the old guy because I just have trouble.
Sounds all too familiar.
The other 80-year-old. Or
about 80.
Well, it's two 80-year-old guys and a 90-year-old guy talking. And the other 80-year-old guy goes, I know. I get constipated all the time. It's just horrible. And the old 90-year-old goes, And he goes, 6 a.m. every day. I go pee. Just steady stream, no problem. 7 o'clock, I do number 2. Just no problem. The 80-year-old guys went, boy, that's great. And he goes, no, I don't wake up till 9.
All right, two old guys sitting at a bar. And they're having a cocktail, and one guy turns to the other guy and says, I can hear so good now. I just bought the best hearing aid in the world, and it cost me $7,000. And the other old guy says, oh, yeah, what kind is it? And he said, 1230. City Slicker wants to go duck hunting.
1 minute?
So he arranges to go duck hunting. He goes out to the country and he shoots a duck, and it comes down in this farmer's yard. So he goes over and tells the farmer, hey, I just shot a duck and it's in your yard. And the farmer said, well, it's my duck. He said, no, I just shot it. I just come over to tell you. He says, my duck. He says, we do things different out here in the country. He says, if you want the duck, we have to stand across from each other and kick each other in the groin, and whoever stands up first wins. Guy says, okay, I guess it's kind of weird, but I guess I can do it. So
30 seconds.
So the farmer says, I'll go first. So he kicks the city slicker right in the groin, and he's writhing on the ground. And he's going through for 5 minutes. He finally gets back up, and he says, okay, it's my turn. He goes, you can have the duck.
10 seconds.
That's an old Buddy Hackett joke where he went on forever.
Yeah, it reminds me like
5 seconds.
Putin Zelensky. yeah, that's the deal. But oh man, oh my goodness gracious.
Okay.
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX.
And welcome back to the Alan Autry Show, also known as two old guys sitting around yapping. We've been doing a lot of yapping
corny jokes
about the war over Ukraine. But we have a few minutes left. Let's some breaking news. It looks like Hunter Biden has a plea deal. He'll plead guilty to lying on a gun form, get a permit, and I guess about $1 million in tax problems. I don't know, evasion, or I don't know what. If it's evasion, it could be something, but you know what's going to happen. Pearl, is this? Well, they've already
struck a deal.
Yeah, they already struck the deal.
Two-tier justice, according to McCarthy.
Do you think?
Yeah, I think he got something like 2 years of probation and pay the fine, something like that. Yeah. So it was just fairly benign.
What does that do? Does that help Joe Biden or hurt Joe Biden? Really? Because
I don't think it makes a difference one way or the other to a lot of folks. It makes a difference to, I think, a lot on the more conservative side, because they feel there is a two-tiered system of justice. I think for Biden's followers, they could care less.
Let me ask you this. Do you have to be on the far right to recognize that maybe we got a double standard, two-tier system? Do you really?
No. I think if you're an intelligent person and are concerned about the country, that that there seems to be a two-tier system or a different system for different folks. And it's pretty blatant. It's right out there in front of you. You don't have to look under rocks. You don't have to search. It's there in front of you every day. Pretty easy to see, at least. And folks, believe me, I'm not the brightest bulb in the chandelier. And if I can see it, it just takes a little bit of common sense, what you always refer back to, common sense and good judgment.
And some understanding. It's very difficult in today's day and time in America to keep your optimism, which I encourage everybody to do. I'm an optimistic guy. I can leave after this and go have a fun time doing stuff, even though I can get passionate here. But I don't ever let it leave me completely where this country is right now, because that's what the people who want to see America demolished and built back up again into what they can never tell. But I know what. It won't be something as good as what we had, believe me, if we allow that to happen. But you can be an optimist, keep it in its place, and not let it eat you up. You got to have that fire burning in your belly if you're a patriot. You got to make sure that fire doesn't burn you up. Okay? And then just think on that. And you can do that, but it takes effort. But I think right now, in today's day and time, to be a good patriot on the left or right, you have to understand that politics has sunk to such a low that if you don't have a significant amount of cynicism towards the whole political system, I don't think we get out of this. And you have this whole ideology that critical thinking should be eliminated, and it starts in our schools, which critical thinking was what most generations up till today, the last few generations, were taught to look at both sides of an issue and make up your own. Encouraged to make up your own mind about
now
something. Don't be artificial intelligence, or you can be programmed. We have a whole different set of forces coming at us in academia, politics, military,
culturally,
entertainment, culturally, influencers, all this stuff. For example, the reason I bring that up is this whole notion that we talked about this on the show the other day, that attorney generals are somehow independent in their thinking. They just put into office and they don't worry or they don't consider what their boss who appointed them, which is the president, thinks about a certain issue or a certain case, whether they're going to pursue it or not. That is absolutely false. When you hear the statement that in the left saying that Joe Biden gave Merrick Garland complete free rein to do whatever Merrick Garland wanted, and he stays away, he puts a firewall between him and that is so ridiculous. And no attorney general ever has done that. No president has allowed that. Every attorney general, you go back to Cummings under FDR, the attorney general Cummings did what FDR told him to do. Nicholas Katzenbach, the DOJ, the attorney general under LBJ, did what LBJ told him to do. Eric Holder did what Barack Obama told him to do. John Ashcroft did what George W. Bush told him to do. He knew what the attorney generals know what the president wants done. They have that discussion before they're appointed. He's a member of the cabinet. You say, well, it's like Supreme Court. No, the Supreme Court's appointed for life. You're appointed there, then they are really free birds. Can't fire them if you don't like a decision. And no, Merrick Garland's doing what Joe Biden wants him to do. And if Joe Biden did not want him to go after Donald Trump with these bogus, 37 counts in this indictment where there was one charge that bred into 36 more charges. And you only have to go back not that long ago in our book that it was accepted. People knew that. I mean, it got so obvious and people really didn't matter because they knew what the Attorney General did, was John F. Kennedy appointed his own brother, Robert Kennedy, to be Attorney General. Now, Robert Kennedy was going to do what his blood brother, John Kennedy, wanted him to do. And there was not a big controversy about it. So this whole notion of the Attorney General acting independently of the president is just a fantasy that's created just recently. And when you try to say that Joe Biden has nothing to do but trying to put his main rival in jail, you're smoking some mighty potent crack. Robert, thank you for being with us, buddy. God bless you. God bless America. And just do your best and let God do the rest. It's going to turn out the way it's supposed to. God bless and love you all. Bye-bye now.
Bye, folks.
Yeah.